Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff Mom Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio.
And for today's episode of Feminists Around the World, which, a peek behind the curtains, I cannot get the name straight to save my life. We are struggling here, but I did it correctly this time.
Yay.
But, we still have to let our faults be known.
Yes.
We are entering into Disability Pride Month with a bang. And just to put a timestamp here, this should be released on July 3rd, 2023, I believe, even though we recorded ahead because I am technically out this week. Haha.
Yeah. The strangeness of podcasting.
But we are celebrating the achievements of activist and award-winning filmmaker Nasreen Alkhateeb. And her work has centered around intersectional issues and inclusion, and she has worked hard to collaborate on her projects. And she calls these projects, quote, cultural shifting. She explained to Forbes magazine, quote, either I see a gap in our culture that needs bridging, or I see momentum in an area that needs amplifying. That's where I put my energy. And she continues, being a cinematographer means that the world is seeing the story through my eyes, through my lens. Starting at a very young age, I was forced to the outside of many social circles. Being exposed to the harmful effects of that exclusivity has given me a unique motivation in my work. She further explained to Pratt.edu, the pursuit of collaboration in the creation of culture-shifting work was developed as a result of being raised by a women's rights grassroots organizer. I think when you cultivate social justice into art making, it attracts future collaborators who are motivated by the same yearning. And on her site, allmediastorytelling.com, it describes her style of filming as, quote, utilizing a plethora of lenses. Her ability to motivate audiences is a direct result of approaching story through multiple identities, multi-heritage, Black, Iraqi, disabled through chronic pain, and neurodivergent, raised Muslim, LGBTQIA+, and first generation, born in Oakland, California. And again, as Pratt EDU writes about her work, Alkhateeb's multi-heritage and multi-hyphenate identity has shaped the lenses through which she has developed her body of work over the last decade, work that makes space with a fierce sense of care for underheard and undervisualized perspectives and experiences.
Pratt.edu also interviewed Alkhateeb in the article, and when asked how multi-perspective storytelling works for her, she replied, being a person who is intersectional makes it much easier for me to hold safe space for people who occupy marginalized identities. When I approach a story, I try to quiet my programmed brain. There are so many nuanced ways people are forced to communicate. It takes a practice of being able to listen, to actually hear what they are trying to convey. Their own message deserves my time, my consideration, and my ability to amplify their story. So people like them know that they are valued, and so more communities have the ability to get to know them. If I am working on a documentary about someone who uses a mobility device to move around, and the audience watching does not have anyone in their life who has had that experience, it is my responsibility to amplify their story authentically, so the space carved into the audience is a safe one, moving forward for anyone they come in contact with who uses a mobility device. And she continues, in regard to craft, being someone who comes from multiple intersections and being born multi-hyphenate, not having the power to be anything other than a multi-hyphenate, it definitely informs what I capture. I see texture, I see color, and I see light through the lens of someone who embodies these identities. Someone who has lived in another country, someone who has been marginalized in a colonialist society and patriarchy. So the things I capture and choose to amplify through my lens have everything to do with who I am. I didn't choose those identities. Those identities are embedded in my story.
Right. And in her career, Alkhateeb has worked with organizations like NASA, Oprah Productions, the Women's March, and for the Kamala Harris campaign, studying filmmaking at Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, New York. She began her career as a camera operator a year after she graduated, and I believe that was 2007. Since then, Alkhateeb was the lead cinematographer for Harris's VP campaign, working obstacles that taxed her physically, mentally, and emotionally. But she says it was an incredible experience and campaign, and telling Forbes that there was this moment before the debate, and there were multiple moments throughout the campaign that just gave me such confidence in the energy propelling her. There was a celebratory feeling in the air around her, and you could tell on everyone's faces it was just there, was just joy in the air. It was infectious. I love that story. She also filmed campaigns for NASA, as well as doing a series with Oprah Productions, including Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man, which earned many Emmys with that.
In 2022, the Fordham Mellon Foundations announced Alkhateeb as one of the recipients of the Disability Futures Fellows, which awards $50,000 to disabled artists in the U.S. that advances the cultural landscape. And though she has always focused on the marginalized community, in 2018, a hit and run pushed Alkhateeb to work a bit differently when it came to the disabled community. She told Forbes magazine, "Because disability is a dirty word in our culture, I had to reevaluate why it felt like a dirty word to identify with. Who taught that to me? Where did they learn that? I had to unpack the word and then repack it in a healthy way." The article continues, "Becoming disabled made Alkhateeb realize that she had to change the way she approached her filmmaking work, too. Filmmaking is a grueling business that often involves long hours and standing for long periods. It consists of lugging heavy equipment, traveling long distances, etc. Before, Alkhateeb could withstand and endure 15 days with barely any break. But now, with an injured foot and chronic pain, that wasn't a viable option. She had to learn to speak up for herself, and in the process, she began advocating for everyone, disabled or not, in hopes of changing the toxic culture of an industry that doesn't always believe in rest, and making it more inclusive."
Right. And Alkhateeb explains, "I think our culture glorifies putting ourselves physically through the ringer, staying up at all hours, working 15 to 20 hours a day, and using that as a badge of honor. And it's toxic. The film industry is built on an ableist and masculine tenets. Most of the equipment is designed for men. It's not designed with women in mind. Whether you're disabled or not, everyone has needs. And for the last few years, I've thought about those needs more and more in terms of what a production day should look like, and when we're going to take breaks, what kind of food we're going to have accessible on set. All of those things matter, and all those things actually made a more compelling product at the end of the day." Right? And her work continues to reflect her thoughtfulness and inclusivity, which has earned her some accolades, including being named a Fellow of the Disruptors, a Fellow of Sundance's Accessible Futures Intensive, an alumni of the Respectability Lab, and the Fellow of the WIF Creative Circle. And when asked by Pratt EDU about advice for those who are seeking to tell similar stories and create space for themselves in the industry, Alkhateeb said, "The underestimation that you have experienced, use it. It's fuel. Your instincts will help guide you to tell the stories that you know are important. In the pursuit of telling those stories, you will find a community of people who will help sustain that drive."
Yes, I love so much of this. So, again, very excited to see what Alkhateeb does. Check out more of her work. But yeah, listeners, if you have anybody we should cover in this segment, please let us know. If we missed anything, please let us know. You can email us at stuffmediamomstuff@iheartmedia.com. You can find us on Twitter at momstuffpodcast, or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff Mom Never Told You. We also have a YouTube and a TeePublic store with the new designs. And we have a book. You can pre-order it at stuffyoushouldreadbooks.com. Also on Audible. Thanks, as always, to our super producer, Christina, our executive producer, Maya, and our contributor, Joey.
Thank you all.
Yes. And thanks to you for listening. Stuff Mom Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.